Hey everybody, and welcome to the Go Vegan Grow interview. This is Dave Sheen, the founder of Go Vegan Grow, and I'm delighted to be here on this week's interview. And we're going to share more information with you about adopting a plant-based lifestyle and how to do it. You know, sharing journeys. Again, this is what we're all about. We want to help people and educate them and inspire them and motivate them to learn firstly how to do it and why to do it, and then with that arm them with the tools to be able to successfully adopt it. Because this is what's key. You know, so many people are starting to become more and more aware of the merits of a plant-based lifestyle, but people are often lost as to how to do it. You know, what are the next steps to make? And this is what both myself and my guests want to help you with. So I'm delighted that on this week's call, we've got live from London, Neil Shah. He's a stress expert, but also he's an Ironman, plant-based Ironman. So I'm just going to put a quick slide here about Neil. And it should show. Neil, welcome to the call.
How you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Is your slide showing okay?
It is.
Great. So there's Neil, everyone. After finishing Ironman, again, a huge feat. But what's important there, it's important to achieve such feats, but to do it as plant-based goes against the grain, really. Because especially in athletes in every sport around the world, it's a tiny minority of people who are actually plant-based. So Neil, firstly, thank you for coming on. I value your time. Neil's actually, after racing and trains and everything from Liverpool, to literally make it here. So, you know, he's done everything he can to get here. So thank you so much for getting here, firstly, and, you know, putting your time into this, because, you know, Neil is super passionate about this area. And, you know, we're going to hear more about his own personal journey very shortly. But thanks firstly for being on, Neil. It's a pleasure. I'm delighted to have you here.
It's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Dave.
Cool. Now, what we want to start off with is, you know, for some people who are on, they know you really well, they've been following you for a long time, both in the stress area and now the plant-based area. But for others, they may not know you at all. You know, people who've been tracking me or maybe just found our promo somewhere in cyberspace. So just tell people a bit more about you, who you are, but also importantly, you know, the whole vibe of Go Vegan Grow. You know, your background from, you know, the way you used to eat before, your lifestyle before, and moving that towards when you adopted the plant-based lifestyle, and why, you know, what were your reasons, and then a few of the benefits you felt since.
Absolutely. So I'm director of the Stress Management Society. I'm author of a couple of best-selling books, the 10-Step Stress Solution and another one called Introducing Neurolinguistic Programming. And I've always had a passion in well-being. I started the Stress Management Society, it's been 12 years and 2 weeks now since I started this organization, and it was primarily because I had a first-hand experience of a burnout. You know, I had a significantly detrimental experience in my life, which impacted me physically, mentally, emotionally. And yeah, as I said, I had a burnout. When I was recovering from that experience, I did choose to invest in myself, to look at how I can be the best version of myself, and that includes my mental state, where I learned things like neurolinguistic programming, and I got trained as a psychotherapist, got trained in hypnotherapy, and a whole range of sort of strategies to essentially improve my mental and emotional state. And then subsequent to that, I also started to focus on my physical health. I started running. I ran four marathons up until the 2010. I started to look at my diet and staying away from wheat and all kinds of things, because, you know, I wanted to be the best possible version of myself, not just for my own benefit, but, you know, I was running and leading an organization which was promoting ideas and strategies about well-being. I was asked to be the BBC's spokesperson for stress, which meant I was doing a lot of radio and television work. I was writing regularly for newspapers and magazines and getting to share my views. But it was a constant and never-ending journey. My first client, my first patient, if you like, Dave, was myself.
Yeah.
You know, I was on an ongoing journey to look at what more I could do to optimize my well-being. Last year, I made a decision at the beginning of last year. I made a decision that I was going to run an Ironman. Someone dared me that there was no way in the world that I could do an Ironman, and the best way to get me to do something is to dare me not to. So I started training for an Ironman. I was working with a coach, Annie Emerson. So if anyone's ever watched triathlon on television, you'll know Annie, because he's the face of triathlon for the BBC. So we were working very closely together. We became very good friends. And, you know, she's essentially running my training programs. I was training 25 to 30 hours a week. Her partner, Charlotte, who she works closely with, was sort of helping with my my diet. You know, I was essentially at one point consuming about 7,500 calories a day just to prevent me from losing more weight than was safe, because I was training so hard that I was just having to continue to consume. So that included a lot of whey protein, it included a lot of meat, chicken, fish, etc., just rice, just to keep myself going. But I was also at that point, I guess, starting to go through somewhat of an ethical and spiritual journey, if you like, starting to really understand what was important to me and the things that bothered me. And I guess I was always sympathetic to the vegan cause. I always liked the idea of being vegetarian, but I'd never really found a way of making it work, because I guess I enjoyed the kind of the sensory pleasure of meat, the instant gratification that you would get from eating meat. There were some things that bothered me. I did a 60K race, 60K run, year before last, and it was a charity race, and it was for a cancer charity, and it was an honourable cause. And I haven't personally been sort of impacted by someone I know close to me that's died from cancer, but I did it because it was a great race and I really wanted to do it. And I raised £5,000 for this charity, which I was really happy about. And I got speaking to a vegan sometime after that race and telling him about this race that I did, because this friend of mine, Sarah, she was also an athlete. And she said, you know those cancer charities, you know what they do their research on cancer on? And I said, no, I didn't just assume they did it in the lab. And she said they test on monkeys and beagles and that kind of thing. And much of that research isn't even transferable to humans. And I was really upset about that, thinking I'd raised a lot of money to cause suffering to some animals, and that didn't really sit well with me. But I never reconciled kind of, a monkey or a beagle to the cows and the chickens and, the fish that I was eating on a daily basis. And there was kind of this whole ethical thing that really started to sit uncomfortably with me. I'm starting to realize that I was a bit of a hypocrite. But then also kind of, the challenge I was facing is that a lot of the sports nutrition and a lot of the diet programs that I was following to help me to optimize my health essentially were very much the kind of the paleo approach, which is eat lots of meat and nuts and vegetables and that kind of thing. And to a certain degree, it was working, which is why I was kind of very scared about making a major shift. But I was also now starting to feel very uncomfortable with my life decisions. I was starting to feel like a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where it was literally, it wasn't like with yourself where it took a while. It literally, there was a night where I was out with some friends and having this conversation and going on about some of my ethical arguments about, people hunting animals for sport, people going out to Africa and hunting lions and elephants and that kind of thing. And this whole thing about animal testing, but being called out as a hypocrite, because at the time that I was having that conversation, I had a lamb chop in my mouth. And actually, in my face, called a hypocrite at that point, because all of this was ticking over my mind, it was just too much. And literally that night I went home, basically stayed awake most of the night, feeling really uncomfortable with myself, and woke up the next morning and made a decision I would never eat meat again, with no idea what I was going to do for food.
Yeah.
Because I
made the decision.
I'd made the decision, but I'm the kind of person where I have OCD. I've been blessed with OCD. It's one of the greatest gifts that the universe gave me. But it means when I make a decision, I become very obsessive, very compulsive about it, and I don't have an off switch. Any other person, when something becomes difficult or uncomfortable, they're not sure what to do, they will stop. I don't know how to stop, which is why my first marathon, by the time I finished, the guy from Kenya that had won the race, he was back in Nairobi already, because I got injured and I literally dragged myself around, but I wasn't going to stop until I finished the race. Yeah. And that's basically what happened with my vegan journey. I'd kind of made a decision I wasn't going to go back. And I remember telling my coach, and she pretty much went spare. She was like, are you crazy? You're halfway through training for an Ironman. You're not supposed to make any major lifestyle shifts. But that was it. I knew that I was going to do. And one of my vegan friends actually gave me a book by a gentleman called Brendan Brazier. He was an elite Ironman athlete that did it on a plant-based diet. I then started doing some research. There was a gentleman called Matt Frazier that wrote a book called No Meat Athlete. Scott Jurek, arguably the world's top long ultra distance runner, is plant-based. Venus and Serena Williams, David Hay, and a lot of...
Rich Roll is another good one, just for viewers to check out. Rich Roll is another big one.
Absolutely. And I was amazed at the number of elite athletes that have gone vegan. Many, not just for ethical reasons, they've also done it for performance gain. There's a lot of people that actually in training season will follow a vegan diet and maybe off season they won't, but because they recognize the massive performance gains that can be had. So, you know, very quickly, I literally crammed as much information I could just so I could start thinking about what I was going to do to fuel myself. And also maintain my calorie intake. I was, you know, needing to consume as you know, being an athlete yourself, a significant amount of calories, and doing that on a plant-based diet didn't just mean stop eating meat. It meant making a radical shift in my relationship with food. You have to approach your relationship with food in a very different way. I meant I was actually eating more. I was eating very differently to my meat and veg and that kind of thing, and whey protein shakes, which challenged me a little bit at first, but actually what kept me seriously and significantly motivated is literally within a week, I was scheduled to do a 100-mile sportive as part of the Ironman training. At the time, that was the longest race that I would have done. And my coach had me scheduled to do a 2-hour run the next day after a 100-mile race. You know, I was kind of petrified because I'd done like 60K, 70K bike rides and done, you know, a 12-mile run the next day. And that was tough. And you hurt, you're in pain, you're dragging yourself around. This is literally 10 days after going vegan. I did that race. I got up the next day and I had the run of my life. My legs were fine. There's something wrong. That can't be right. But that continued throughout the first couple of months. And the performance gains that I got from eliminating animal products from my diet were more than anything else that I've ever done, ever. And, you know, I've been kind of competing athletically for more than 12 years now. There is no single one thing that I've done that's brought about that amount of performance gain. And
was that mainly the DOMS, Neil? You know, delayed onset muscle soreness. Was that the main benefit you felt from it during that phase? Or during the sessions, or, you know, kind of specifically with your training, what were you feeling?
Initially, yes. It's, you know, the DOMS where, you know, your legs are heavy the day after a race, and even more so 2 days later, where you really feel it, where you're you know, walking up the stairs like, you know, your legs are made of wood. But that disappeared, and I was like, I couldn't understand it. And I'm starting to now understand the science behind it, which obviously I'm sure that you'll be able to explain in more detail about your body's ability to expel lactic acid and a whole variety of things. For me at the time, I didn't understand the science. I just knew what I was feeling, and I never felt as good. And even running up to sort of, you know, as I was getting closer to the race and, you know, upping the training to sort of 25, 30 hours a week, pushing myself, you know, and as you know, it's not just with training. I also work. I travel around the country, around the world.
Hectic schedule.
On a kind of a radically different diet. It meant that I had to forward plan. I had to think ahead. And I will be honest, in the first couple of months, there were a few indiscretions where I fell off the wagon because I just couldn't get the food that I wanted to. But it was, I tell you, the day that I made a lifelong commitment that I would never go back is the day that I crossed the finish line. And as you cross the finish line, it took me 15 hours, you know, and that was my first attempt. It was like 15 hours of racing full on for anyone, for myself included. A couple of years ago, the thought of racing flat out for 15 hours, you know, covering that kind of crazy distance in the sweltering heat of Mexico would have been unimaginable. I crossed the finish line, and the first thing they did is they would basically ask you what your name is, because they just want to make sure you're coherent, you're not ready to collapse after they've announced to Shah you're an Ironman. And they tried to put a glass of Pepsi and a slice of pepperoni pizza in my hand. At that point, your resolve is destroyed, and it can very easily have gone wrong. But you know what? It was at that point that I made the decision that, you know what, being a vegan, following a plant-based diet has got me through the toughest one-day endurance event, arguably the toughest one-day endurance event on the planet. There is no way that I would ever go back to feeling the way I did before I turned plant-based. And you know what? And the one thing I would say to anyone that's listening today, don't take my word for it. Try it yourself. Give yourself a fair trial. The January is coming up, you know.
Exactly. Just about to say it. Like, that's a huge opportunity for people to, you know, just get lots of resources, lots of coaching, lots of support, and just give it a month. Give it 30 days. That's all.
Give it a fair trial. Exactly. Like, try it out for yourself. And Matt Glover's doing some amazing things with the people he's got supporting, with the support you have, with the recipes online, with the all the companies that have joined in to provide you, discounts for their products. It's becoming so much easier. And, as I said, like, give yourself the gift of just trying it for yourself. 30 days, see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely, for anyone, if it makes any bit of sense what we're saying to you or what you've heard before, because I'm sure some people have come on out of curiosity. Some people are watching because they already know quite a bit. Some are vegans and they just want to continue to get inspiration and a bit more knowledge. But just, take that step. Just give it a go, as Neil said, and see what happens. Like, the beauty of it these days compared to anyone who's adopting a plant-based lifestyle 10, 20 years ago, there weren't many options. There wasn't much knowledge. There wasn't much support. It definitely wasn't like hundreds of thousands of websites and YouTube videos and people sharing their own personal journeys. Calls like these things weren't happening. So there's a lot less variety. It's like even with different milks. Even now, there's so many options for dairy-free milks. Before, there was just basic soy milk, which tasted vile at the time. So you have so many more options.
And we do live in a very vegan-friendly world. It's getting much easier now. Obviously, I only became vegan. It's been a year and a half now. But I was actually amazed that with a bit of effort and a bit of foresight, how easily you can adapt your diet to be plant-based. Now, that includes treating yourself as well. I'm also, to make things even more, a little bit more complicated, I'm gluten-free. I've been gluten-free for many years, again, for health reasons. But these days, I can make myself a gluten-free, and I'm going to give a few plugs here if that's okay. I can make myself a gluten-free pizza. The Little Venice Bakery, they're online. You can get pizza bases, which taste amazing. You can stick on some plant-based cheeses. Now, you only need to go into your local supermarket. Tesco stock I've counted now 12 brands of vegan cheese. There's brands like BioLife. Yeah, they've got their own in-house Tesco brand of vegan cheese now.
Excellent.
No, not just one, 4 different types. They've got, mature, medium, light taste. They've made one's made with soya, one's made with coconut. There's loads of choice. And you know what? Like, okay, it might taste a little bit different, but it's still a pizza. And you can still get that satisfaction of having that comfort food, if you like. But also, one of the things I found is my diet is much more clean now. And it's not just because I'm plant-based. I am much more conscious about what I put into my body. Those kind of Friday night indiscretions after you've had a drink or two where you might just have something that you wouldn't on a daily basis, because you have to think a little bit more about what you're eating, the chances are that you will honor your body much more. There's never going to be a chance you will find me, not that you would have before, you're never going to find me in a McDonald's or anything like that. Because one of the other things I found is now, even though I have choice, and you can go out and buy vegan junk food, there are many high street chains that have a vegan option. Even Pizza Express have now a vegan pizza on their menu. Yeah. But I found that 80% of the food that I eat, I make myself, because I appreciate what I put into my body. And this is one of the things, obviously, I'm passionate about is stress. One of the things I've learned from the research we've been doing is 40% of the stress that we experience in modern society, that's 40% we have consumed through high sugar products, through meat products, through wheat products that our bodies just can't digest, and particularly dairy products that are quite inflammatory for our digestive system. And this was, stuff that people in the wellbeing community have been talking about for a while. The World Health Organization issued some information on this very recently. And they've compared eating processed meat to smoking or being exposed to asbestos in terms of the risk of cancer. These are carcinogens, and there is no question of the validity of that research. It's been peer reviewed. We're now at a stage where actually continuing to eat meat, particularly processed meat, is as bad, if not worse, for your health than smoking.
Yeah, totally. And that's where, especially when the World Health Report or World Health Organization came out with that report, again, that was quite damning for the whole processed meat industry. And it was good the way, it did tend to go viral, and so many people got on board making changes from it. And this, the big thing really is being aware. What I always say to people is, first step is keep open-minded, because unfortunately there's a lot of people who will stay closed-minded, and no matter what, they will not expose themselves to this type of information. They will not listen to it or anything. be open-minded. It's like for myself, again, what is it now? God, Max is what, 10? My son is vegan since birth. So my wife went vegan 11 years ago. He's 10 years. And it was in his first few years, from watching his growth and cognition and everything, it made me think maybe some of what she was annoying me as it appeared at the time about books and videos and all I should be watching. Maybe I should actually take a bit of notice of these. And that was where I gradually went through videos, movies, books, following people, everything, and gradually moved to a plant-based lifestyle. But it started from me being open. While I thought what she was doing was crazy at the time, I was still open to at least looking at it and giving it just a fair crack at the whip and forming my own opinion. Because like Neil said it earlier, give it a go. It's like veganuary. Give it a go. See what you think of it. Look at the information and form your own opinion. That's so crucial.
The other thing, Dave, is the world we live in today. As you know, that we see each other's posts on Facebook. We're in touch all the time. The world we live in today, there is a significant lack of compassion. There's a lot of stuff going on which is putting people into an angry, fearful state. One of the things to bear in mind is when you're compassionate about the animals, when you're compassionate about the planet, when you love beyond yourself, you don't just reserve that for the animals. And one of the things I tend to find is vegans care about more than just animals. They care full stop. Yeah. And, it starts with caring for yourself. You care for animals, you care for the planet, we care for each other. But we've got a great opportunity, and you're making a statement by the very way that you live your life. It's, being vegan is not just about what you eat. It's about how you live your life. This is a lifestyle more than a diet. And that's something I didn't fully appreciate when I first went vegan. It started as a dietary choice, but then I started to realize this is much more than that. And you care about issues beyond just what is on your plate.
Yeah. What I personally found to add to that is definitely your attitudes change. Definitely become more caring. Definitely become more aware of world issues and the many wrongs that are going on. Because, like for me, I've been involved in sport based my whole life. Training has been what has mattered most to me. And even though I saw the health benefits from what I read and watched throughout that 7-year journey I had, even though obviously it was obvious it would save millions of animals' lives, help with the planet. My only concern, my stimulation for going vegan initially was for my training, because that was the most important thing for me. I wanted to perform better, recover better, get better times, and that was my motivation. And it's like Neil said earlier, in terms of for athletes, especially during their training season, so many of them are now plant-based because it does work. But what happened for me then was over time, over the first year, second year, I did become more compassionate with animals, with the planet, become more aware of it. And now for me, it's saving yourself in terms of with disease, saving animals, and saving the planet. And that's why I added that as the tagline, so go vegan, grow. But that wasn't something that I overnight went, okay, I want to be vegan because of animals and all. Even though I cared about them, I didn't care enough. Whereas now it's completely different. So your attitude does totally change.
And I think that's the key thing, that it makes sense on so many different levels. But the one thing that I would say to anyone is don't do it because Neil and Dave, gave a convincing argument. Do it because it makes sense, or at least give it a go. Give it a fair trial. 30 days is a short period of time, and a lot of people do Stoptober, or they stop drinking or stop smoking for a month. And view this in the same way. This is another amazing gift that you can give yourself, another amazing gift that you can give to the planet. And if a few animals get saved or get to live a little bit longer because of your decision, then that's something that you've been able to positively contribute. But as I said, the key motivating factor for me was how differently I felt, how much better I was sleeping at night, how much more efficiently my digestive system was working. And, as as an athlete, your ability to process things quickly really does help. So, you're able to derive what you need from the food and get the waste out of your body as quickly as possible. Now, I remember being backed up off meat sometimes when you had a good steak, or things like meat sweats. I don't know if you remember meat sweats. The day after, going out for a steak or something, and then going for a run, and you've got those meat sweats, and how uncomfortable that feeling is. I was with my brother the other day, and he had a full-on meat sweat, and I just remember how much I didn't miss that feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I know.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I think these are the key things. That there are so many quick win benefits that you can gain, and that, you know, gauge it on how you feel, gauge it on your own feedback. Not what you read in a book, not what somebody else said, not on a convincing post you saw on Facebook, but because you yourself are able to recognize and measure the benefit over a period of time. And, you know, 30 days is a pretty good way of being able to test it.
Yeah, no, it's like, definitely, like, the thing is, take on board, like what as Neil has said, I have said, anyone that you hear, take it on board. Let that be, I suppose, more the stimulation for you to give it a go. You know, it's obviously part of education, sowing a few seeds, but let that be the stimulation and make the decision to adopt it for, even if it's just 30 days, or even for getting for January, it might be just here next week. I'm going to give it a go for 7 days, or you might just have meat-free Monday or something, but take it steps that at least. The beauty of it, you know, as Neil has alluded to, it's instant. You will feel differences really, really fast. Like, I was amazed at the difference I felt in my sleep. Like, sleep is an area I've studied a lot for years, and I know how to get optimum sleep. But even though I knew that and I was doing what I should for optimum sleep, I still felt a further benefit. And I feel now, if I ever, for instance, with work or whatever, I just can only get, we say, 4 hours sleep. It's a better 4 hours sleep. And I'm surviving better. You know, so it's pretty incredible the difference it makes at every aspect.
And that's another point that I think is worth touching on. That I went from sleeping on average 7.5 to 8 hours sleep to be able to function properly. I now average 6 to 6.5 hours sleep, and I can function well. You know, less than 6 hours, I might be a bit tired, but I can go by on 6.5 hours sleep, and that was another significant change in my life after going vegan. I was amazed that, and that's not something I even anticipated or expected, that my sleep would improve, because I always thought I slept pretty well. But yeah, that was another thing that was really amazing for me. My mental focus and clarity. Again, you don't expect your mental focus and clarity to improve just from, you know, reducing animal or removing animal products. But that was another thing that I was really amazed at. That you know, that there are times, particularly if you're tired, you had a long day, you might not be able to think clearly. But I was, you know, from the moment I woke up, I was in a kind of a very sharp, focused state, which, again, a lot of these things, for a lot of people, may sound too good to be true. Don't base it on what I'm saying. Give it a go and see what happens for yourself. Exactly. And also, another thing that I've learned is there are a lot of amazing products and supplements that, when I say supplements, things like nutritional yeast. I'd never even heard of nutritional yeast, but you know, I'll make a gluten-free pasta pretty regularly, and I'll put, you know, lots of veg in it. Sometimes I'll make the pasta out of courgette. You spiralize it. It's great. Great. Sprinkle this nutritional yeast, and it gives it a very nutty, cheesy flavor. But it's an amazing source of B12. Because a lot of people are going on about where you're going to get your protein from. You're training for an Ironman. You know, I've actually learned that meat isn't the greatest source of protein. That's a real another myth. This whole protein myth that we've kind of all bought into collectively, that you need to eat meat to get protein. Actually, you get protein from pretty much anything if you eat large quantities of it. But things like pumpkin seeds and peanut butter and all kinds of things that actually are a really great source of protein, but also more easily assimilatable. And this is obviously your area. You'll probably have more of a kind of a view on this. But I was amazed at how easily you could get everything your body needs from plant sources.
Yeah, totally.
Despite what the doubters will tell you.
Yeah, like it's without doubt one of the biggest lies and myths that are out there. Like I came from like a bodybuilding background where meat was everything, whey protein was everything. Like I was eating up to 13 times a day, and that could have been 3 times beef, a few times chicken, a few times fish, 3 or 4 whey protein shakes, casein shakes, everything, because that's what you needed. But you know, the thing that always amazes me with these things, when you become aware, when you actually start to think about it, you think how stupid it was if you actually didn't see the reality. Because before the supplement industry, which really is probably 20, 30 years or something like that, people were supposedly getting enough protein. Now you can't in any way get enough protein, supposedly, unless you're eating tons of meat, you're taking tons of whey protein, and even then you're still probably not getting enough. You know, because there's every other kind of supplement you have to add to even try to get more amino acids on their own and everything. So I was in that world. And that was, again, for me, it was, you know, an experiment nearly. For 6 months, I said, right, give this plant thing a go. No supplements, nothing. Which for me was just scary as hell, because again, I didn't want to lose everything I'd gained. And I performed better, I recovered better, and I got equally, if not better, results overall. And that's what, again, sold it for me. But it's just such a myth. And the thing is, everything is protein. Foods can't bind together unless they have the different types of nutrients like fiber and carbohydrates and proteins and so on. So to say they can't get enough protein is just crazy. But it's the myth that's out there that kind of the meat-based world holds onto, the dairy world holds onto, the general food industry and supplement industries hold onto. But the fact is, you don't even have to worry about protein when you live a plant-based lifestyle, because you are guaranteed to get more than enough. And the body will tell you anyway. If you're getting too much protein, you'll be going to the toilet a lot more. If you're not getting enough protein, you're going to feel it in other ways. So, listen to your body.
Absolutely. And I also, I got myself a Vitamix. I've been making green smoothies, which, starting your day, usually, so, if it's okay, I'll kind of talk you through a typical day. But I'd get up and I'd have a pint of hot water with lemon. So just basically lemon tea, which is just sliced of lemon. That's a great way of just detoxing your body and just getting it ready to flush out anything it doesn't need in there. Then I'll make a green smoothie, which will normally have things like, half a bag of spinach, some broccoli, maybe some berries, pineapple, whatever I've got around, kiwi. I'll put some coconut water in there for electrolytes, particularly if I've trained in the morning, because it's just a good way of, replacing all the lost electrolytes. Get to work. I normally do some oats with like nuts, goji berries, coconut flakes, and I do that with coconut milk. I do have a guilty pleasure of a soya latte when we get to work, particularly now we've got this amazing coffee machine at work, so that's my guilty pleasure. Bizarrely, I never used to drink coffee until I went vegan, and that's the one bad habit I've picked up. Only one a day, mind you, but yeah, I have a soya latte. And then, during the day that we basically, we are a very vegan-friendly office. Not everybody is vegan, but we've got a snack table which has got like nuts and seeds and dried fruits and like vegan protein bars and vegan snack bars. So there's always like stuff to chew on. We get a fruit box delivered at work once a week as well. So there's always fresh fruit in the office. And at lunch, it really depends on sort of, where I am, but usually it'll be something like a very big salad. I would sometimes have things like either tofu or I'd have a soup with that. And just something like soup and salad or something along those lines. Again, in the afternoon, I would have a vegan protein shake. At the moment, I'm having the Vega ones, which is Brendan Brazier's company. They're very good, very tasty.
Oh, yeah.
There are many brands out there. There's lots and lots of kind of options now for vegan protein shakes. Particularly when I'm training, the protein shake in the afternoon really keeps me going, because particularly if I'm training after work, I need something to fuel me up. And then when I get home, I will typically have a significant portion of rice and veg with nutritional yeast. Maybe I'll put some tofu in there if I need some extra protein. I might do a gluten-free pasta. There's just, or dal. Obviously, you've lived in Liverpool, you know what dal is. It's kind of like an Indian soup made of noodles, but it's really protein rich. Or beans. Like even sometimes at lunchtime, I'll do like a bean salad. But I've also now started to experiment. I do a lot of sort of Asian food, like Thai food, for example, where you can make a Thai noodle soup, which is kind of quite substantial. Rice noodles. Again, if you want extra protein, you can put tofu in there. I discovered things like tempeh, seitan. I'd never even heard of seitan until recently. Okay, it is gluten. It's a once in a while treat, because I tend to stay away from gluten. But it's great if you want something meaty, because you could make a fake meat dish, if you like. So it's amazing how much choice there is. There was a great book that I bought recently called, where is it? Thug Kitchen. Wait, I'm going to get it, so I'm showing.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
Oh. Yeah, so I'm going to share with you a couple of amazing books. Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, sure, grab them.
Right. So, here we go. First one, Salad Samurai, one of the best salad books I've ever come across. This is by far the best vegan book I've ever read. It's called Thug Kitchen. It's street food. It's called Thug Kitchen. Eat like you give a fuck. That's the actual name of the book. All right. So excuse the language there. And it's written in a really funny style. It's like talking to a street thug that is talking you through some recipes. No Meat Athlete. Again, if you're interested in fueling yourself athletically, it's got some really, really great ideas in there. For those of you who are wondering, well, I like my food. I like eating certain meals. How can I replace meat products with something better? This is an amazing book. It's the book, The Vegan Guide of Food Substitutes. So any food that you might need for a recipe, it will give you an alternative. So like if you wanted to make muffins, but you weren't sure what to do to replace the milk or the eggs, it will talk you through a process. If you wanted to make cookies, if you wanted to make like chicken wings, it will give you a recipe that you can use tofu or seitan and still be able to produce something that is passable. So there's some really great options there. And this is the first book that I got. It's called Keep It Vegan.
Yeah.
And
here as well.
yeah, fantastic. Snap. So there's loads.
That's one other one here that's also really cool. Happy Herbivore. They're a really good one. Like the good thing with these two books, these are two main ones that we use, is it can be for good food, so good, healthy, nutritious food, or like that to treat. And like how to make muffins, cakes, everything. Like, because you can literally do everything. That's like I said earlier, the beauty of it these days is there is no excuse because there's so many resources and there's so many alternatives now you can use instead of the dairy or whatever it is you typically have done.
And that really is the key point. You do not need to deprive yourself. Don't feel like you're giving anything up because you're not. More consider what you will gain by adopting a plant-based lifestyle. Because everything that you enjoy, from cheesecakes to muffins to biscuits to cookies, there is a way that you can still enjoy those same things, but feel better for it. And also know that you're not contributing to the suffering or harm or death of any animals. It's a win-win. And absolutely the best cheesecake, and I will say this categorically, the best cheesecake I have ever eaten in my whole entire life is from a restaurant called Manna in Primrose Hill. And Dave, next time you're in London, we must go there. It's a mango cheesecake with fresh mango and a mango coulis on top, and it's made from cashew nuts. I was blown away, and cheesecake was my guilty pleasure. It was like, that was the hardest thing for me to give up. But when I tasted this, I thought, well, why would I ever want to go back to something that was produced out of an animal when I can have something that tastes better and was produced from cashew nuts? It's actually good for me. Yeah,
exactly. That was one thing I was amazed at because, you know, like typically I'm eating clean 6 days a week, 100%, and 1 day treat. And you know, ice cream, stuff like that, dessert has always been my thing. But my wife, obviously, she likes baking and things. But what I was amazed at was pretty much everything that she has made or I've had like that in a restaurant or even at a market that's been vegan, that's been a baked good or an ice cream or whatever, or dessert of some kind, has tasted better than the dairy or meat-based alternative. And I've been amazed. And that was something, again, that brought me into it even more because that was kind of the area I was afraid of losing, we'll say. Especially ice cream. It's like Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's was my treat. I absolutely loved it. They're now bringing out a vegan range. It's great.
Can I give you some good news?
Yeah,
Ben & Jerry's announced 2 days ago they're going to make one vegan alternative. Did you know that?
That's great. Like, yeah, I did.
Ben & Jerry's.
I think it's next April or something that's going to be launched, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's life that I love those combos.
You go into Waitrose and there is literally a dozen different types of vegan ice creams. There's things like Booja Booja, Coconut Collective. There's the Snow Coconut guys, and a lot of these. Actually, coconut it tastes so amazing that I don't feel like I'm depriving myself.
No, the coconut mix is delicious.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you don't, and you know that's the one thing that I felt that would be an issue for me, that I'd be depriving myself of things that I enjoy. But the reality is that's not the case at all. I'm not deprived of anything. In fact, now if it's someone's birthday in the office, people who usually bake a vegan or cake or a muffin so I can get involved. So everyone's kind of now starting to benefit in the office, even though not everybody in the office is vegan. So it's great, and I think this is where. When you make that shift yourself, you yourself automatically start becoming, an example for the people around you. There are so many of my friends that, when I first went vegan, they took the mick and they had a laugh and whatever. But one of them, who's a diehard carnivore, just said, look, Neil, all right, I'll give it a go for a month. And from the month of November, Ricky, big up for Ricky Solanke, he basically has gone vegan for the month. And, every other day he'll be sending me a text, oh, Neil, I had this and I feel so great. And it's so, I was so proud of it. It made me feel so good that he did that. Not because I told him to, but because he heard what I had to say. He took it on board and decided to give it a go for himself. And that's the only thing that I suggest to anyone. Just take it on board. Hear the kind of things that we're saying here, and all the information is available. When you're ready, give it a go. See what happens.
Yeah, and it's like you basically were the spark. You just sowed that little seed, and he made the decision himself to give it a go, and now he's feeling all the better for it. And this thing for anyone who's hearing this or watches replays or hears other people speaking similar stuff, just give it a go. Like, it has to be making some sense to you. One area you want to go into, Neil, which is, big one obviously, is the whole thing. Some people, like I said earlier, are not very open-minded. Some people are very bloody stubborn and very hard for them to change their mind. And you've touched there, even with friends taking the mickey out of you and stuff like that. Now, how do you counteract when people would say to you, it's crazy, it's unhealthy, you're going to get sick, we're designed to eat meat, we're designed to hunt and kill animals. Now, how do you personally counteract that argument when it's thrown at you, I'm sure, quite regularly?
All right, Dave, sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to hold on for a second. My battery's about to die. I'm just going to grab the cable.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So, guys, one thing just while Neil's getting his cable, make sure to chat that you're putting in any questions you have. Like, I hope you're enjoying it so far. Give us some feedback in the chat, but also, let us know your questions. So there's been a couple of questions there we're going to come to. But type in your question. Let us know what you'd like to, Neil to answer for you in any area to do with what we've said, or maybe there's some topics you want us to discuss that we haven't talked about yet. Just in time.
Okay, perfect. 1%. Yeah, I'm back. So, sorry.
Just how you personally counteract the arguments that typically, I'm sure, thrown at you lots. I know I got it and I still get it. That, we're designed to eat meat. The way we're designed is like hunt and kill and all this kind of thing. And, we've said about the protein here, that kind of counteracts a lot of the typical arguments that are thrown in terms of just how it's unhealthy.
Designed to hunt and kill. How many meat eaters hunt and kill the food that they eat?
Yeah.
If you're designed to hunt and kill, that's one thing. But how many people actually do go out and hunt and kill the food? Most of the food that is consumed is produced in a factory. Those animals, most of them are only alive because they're pumped full of antibiotics and growth hormones, which you then consume. There is nothing natural about what is going on in the factory farming, highly processed meat industry, which is why obviously the World Health Organization's report has been so damning, because there is nothing natural about what's going on there. And even if you were to eat something that is naturally produced, the key thing here to bear in mind is your body can function very well, in fact, better, without the need for animal products. Now, yes, there probably was a point in human history where, or certain societies, certain cultures would have needed to survive by consuming animal products, but they would have had a significantly different relationship with their environment and with the animals that they consume. If you think of the Inuits, and yes, they may hunt whales and that kind of thing to eat, but they have a very different relationship. They ask for permission. They will consume every single part of the animal. And also, it's done in a sustainable way. They wouldn't just do it like by throwing a net in and trawling the oceans and emptying it. Yeah. There's a point there. That, that in the Amazon, that they may hunt, animals, but it's for survival. The American Indians, again, they have a very different relationship with their environment. Going into Tesco's and picking up something that is cling wrapped and taking it home and cooking it is not having a relationship with the source of your food. This is a totally different experience. So yeah, if you're going to basically go out into the woods and hunt something and bring it home and butcher it and carve it and eat yourself, maybe you can have the argument with me, but I'm yet to have an argument with someone that has done that.
Yeah.
And the point is, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, basically, like I said, with people that are buying in Tesco and that's what they're doing, it's a total disconnect. Like, they're totally blocked off to what the reality is. What has happened to get it from it being an animal in a field or wherever to when it got slaughtered, and they have no comprehension of it whatsoever.
And I think that for me is the key thing. If you are willing to see the process through from beginning to end, to raise an animal, to go out into the woods and hunt it, that's one thing. But even then, even if that was something you're willing to do, there isn't actually a need for it anymore. We live in a world which you have the availability of as much as you need. So there is actually very little argument for needing to hunt food to survive. You know, there was a point where maybe we needed rich protein sources for us to grow and thrive as a species. That is not where we are anymore. You know, most of us that live in modern society, you know, in Western civilization, you have access to everything at your fingertips. You don't even need to leave the house. You just need to tap on a keyboard and it gets delivered to your front door. There isn't really much of an argument or an excuse for that. You know, that's kind of one key thing that often comes up is, oh, we were designed to eat meat. Well, lions were designed to eat meat. We were designed to eat whatever we could to survive. Hence us not being, equipped in that way. In saying that, my dog was designed to eat meat, right? That's kind of the way his body is designed. Whereas now, I've been able to transition on. He's not vegan, before anybody gets upset, but he's not. 50% of his diet is vegetable based. His favorite snack is a carrot. If I gave him a dog biscuit, he wouldn't eat it. He will not eat commercially produced dog food.
Great.
He eats a brand called Lily's Kitchen, which is a highly ethically produced dog food. But the rest of the time, he'll eat snacks like apples, carrots. He'll eat spinach and lettuce. Because you know what, everyone, even dogs, have the ability to adapt. So he still does have meat because he would need that, because unless he'd been started on a vegan diet from being a puppy.
Yeah,
but
that's his design. Yeah.
He is ridiculously healthy. If you look at his coat, his teeth, his fur. Like, I went to see the vet the other day, and he said he's probably one of the best shaped dogs I've seen, you know, for a long time. And that's a key thing, is that, you know, we can adapt. And as a species, we are well equipped to survive without animal products, particularly animal products that very, you know, hardly resemble an animal in nature. That is the key thing here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Can you hear? Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think just going to throw in there actually while we're talking about that topic. Just a question that came in before we went live from Gisela. I hope I'm pronounced it right. From Charlotte, North Carolina, in the US. So you're saying that does the meat stress connection still exist if the beef is 100% grass-fed?
Well, that's another great point, one that I have been asked several times before. If an animal has been brought up in a factory environment, obviously it would have had a pretty tough life. It would have suffered immensely. But even if it hadn't, even if an animal had lived free and lived in a field, at the moment it's taken in to be butchered, it knows. They are not stupid, okay? These animals are very clever, very sentient beings. If you are being, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're being taken into, you know, a facility where you know your life is going to be terminated, guess what? You get stressed. And, you know, there's many stories online, for those of you that have the stomach to watch this, if you've ever watched a movie like Earthlings, or you know, some of the videos, the slaughterhouse videos that are that are often posted on Facebook, you will know that the animals in the line will start to get distressed because they know that their friends or the other animals are being killed. They know what's coming, and guess what? They get stressed. At the moment their life is terminated, their body will produce huge amounts of adrenaline and cortisol. Now, these are the stress hormones. They are also very powerful toxins. You know, if I gave you in a small amount of adrenaline or cortisol and you drank it, it would kill you. It's a very powerful toxin. It's a neurotoxin that does change the way that your body's functioning. When you consume a piece of meat, you are literally consuming stress. Because at the point of death, the animal produced a huge amount of stress hormones, and it filtered throughout every fiber of its body. And then the body's butchered. You are literally then consuming essentially a piece of stress. The one thing I've said to many people that I talk to about reducing stress is that If you're stressed, stay away from meat. If you don't want to go vegan or the rest of it, just purely for the purpose of reducing your stress and increasing your body's resilience, if you're under stress or you're anxious or you've got a tough time, then stay away from animal products during that period.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
as I said, like, it's slightly different with fish because they don't produce things like adrenaline, cortisol. Particularly meat would be one thing that if you have no interest in going vegan, at the very minimum, stay away from meat products when you're stressed, because as I said, you are literally consuming stress. Your body is already in a highly stressed state. Putting in more animal products and putting in more meat is just going to increase it. It's just going to make things worse.
Yeah, like this is where people need to look at, for some people, they don't, we're all different. Some don't give a damn about animals. Some don't genuinely give a damn about the planet. They think purely of, what will do it for them. For your own sake, and for your own health, you need to make these changes. Whatever about animals and the planet, but for your own health. There's something I tell some people that are, quite close to the other benefits, but you need to do it just for that reason, because it's needed as shared, it's so detrimental to your health.
Yep.
Great, and we'll go. I'll spit out my own personal curiosity, but also it's important for anyone who's into training and sports nutrition, all that area. You mentioned earlier about your coach, and obviously he's a very high-level coach, well-known coach. You'd gone through your training program, and halfway through suddenly changed his plant-based lifestyle, and the reaction wasn't quite surprising in terms of it's typical. Has she come round to your way of thinking, or just more accepted it? Or has it even stimulated her to make changes in what she recommends from sport nutrition?
I think one of the things was when she realized, she knows I'm very passionate and committed, and this was very important to me. So after she got over her initial reaction, she's been really, really supportive, and she works very closely with this lady called Charlotte Saunders, who's also a high-level athlete, duathlete, won lots of medals, and they both collectively did some research to help me to fuel myself appropriately, and they've been tremendously supportive in helping me with this, and I think it's also opened their eyes as well. And I'm not going to say that they've gone vegan, because that's not the case yet, but they've definitely been more supportive and more open-minded to kind of approaching things on a plant-based diet. And I've had subsequent conversations with Annie, and she's really starting to open her eyes to how that can help her, because she's not competing obviously at the highest level anymore, but she still does marathons and that kind of thing, and she's been much more open to that. And I think that's the thing, for a lot of people, as with yourself, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's small changes, little changes over time, and when you start to notice that benefit, you yourself will feel the motivation to continue on that journey.
Definitely, that's great, because that's, I suppose, endurance athletes seem to be the most open to this. It's like some of the people we share, they are the ones who are really embracing plant-based living. Like your conventional sports like rugby and football and these kind of sports, you can see there's a start, but it's something that's going to probably take quite a long length of time. Like tennis, there's quite a few tennis players now. MMA, amazingly, of all sports, MMA, like there's a lot of MMA athletes that are gone vegan. And again, I'm sure in their minds it's purely because they know they will get better results and they have experienced better results. So this is where you just need to look and see the kind of people who are promoting and recommending this kind of lifestyle.
Absolutely, and that's the interesting thing, Dave, is that most endurance athletes, whether vegan or not, will have an understanding of the benefits of adopting a plant-based diet. You can have that conversation; they won't look at you like you're weird. There's a lot of people that I'll come across, and I've worked in professional sports extensively. I've worked with Manchester United. I know that you're a huge fan. I've worked with I've worked with UK Athletics. I've worked with some county cricket clubs. I've worked in professional sports, obviously in my capacity as a stress expert. And there are, particularly in athletics, they really do have an understanding of a plant-based diet, whereas in other fields, particularly in professional sports, they're still a little bit behind on that. They've not really cottoned on to the fact of the significant performance gains that can be had. But that's what I find really fascinating, that this is now not just about, ethical issues or even lifestyle. This is now about sports science. Sports science is cotton on to the fact that actually our bodies tend to function way more efficiently on a plant-based diet. Just if you think about a steak, if you eat a steak, I'm sure you're aware of this, Dave, but it takes your body a significant amount of time to process that and expel it. That it can take up to 28 days for that to be totally eliminated from your system. If you're an endurance athlete, and one of the things that I really started to understand when I was training for the Ironman, the quicker you can get stuff in and the quicker you can get it out and draw the energy from it, the more effectively that your body is functioning. And it also means you're carrying, excuse the language, less shit around with you. You know, how many of us are carrying a ton of stuff that you don't really need and it's not helping you in any way? And that's one of the things, particularly red meat, white meat less so, fish less so. But, there's that hierarchy. The more dense the structure of the meat, the longer it takes your body to break it down and the more you're literally carrying it around with you. Plant products, it's in and out within less than 24 hours. And that means that your body's working super efficiently and you're going to have more energy, more vitality, and you're going to be able to function better for the long distance. Yes, you'll probably need to eat more regularly and consume more, but when your body adapts, wow, it's amazing.
And it's a great thing as well. It's like, even take the angle of people who are looking to lose fat, lose weight, that whole angle. You can eat quite a lot of food because it's going in, energy drawn from it, the benefits drawn when it comes out. You can get more because the bottom line with training is hit the body, rip it to pieces, stimulate and repair. And the quicker you can get the whole repair recovery process going, the quicker you get the results. So you're not starving yourself, you're not on a typical diet, you're actually eating quite a lot of food. And that's what people are shocked at when they do, put their confidence into a plant-based lifestyle, especially when it is something like fat loss, because there's that notion that you have to deprive yourself, you have to eat very little food to lose fat, when the truth is that's not the case. You can eat a lot of food.
Yeah, I eat probably much more now than I did previously. And the other thing is people have this kind of vision of the stereotypical vegan that's kind of, weedy and weak and skinny and got dreadlocks and doesn't wash very often. And I kind of had this, wears Hessian, but that is not the case. You can dress well and, live a normal lifestyle. And, for anyone who's watching, look at the two of us. Neither of us are skinny, weedy, and weak. Both of us are endurance athletes, and there is no one that's ever going to turn around to me and say, "Oh my God, look at the state of you," kind of thing. And that's the key thing, is that that image that people have of a vegan is so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth.
Yeah, like one guy to throw in there actually as well. He's coming into my mind the last few minutes. You probably have heard of a 300-pound vegan, a big NFL guy in the States who has really taken on board, promoting the vegan lifestyle. But he's 300 pounds and he's like an ox, and he's incredible NFL player as well. I don't follow it a huge amount, but obviously when I came across him, I looked into what he does a lot more. Also, what's his name? Patrick Baboumian as well, who's world's strongest man for a while. So they're destroying that stereotype that you are weedy, which again, I had in my head that is what would happen. And that was a big blocker for me even going this way for many, many years.
Yeah, awesome.
So there's loads of examples, loads of athletes. And this is where, we keep stressing to you, listen to what we're saying. I hope it struck a chord. I hope it stimulated a few thoughts, maybe to, again, give it a week, give it a day, give it a month, whatever it might be. But look into other people, look into some of the people we've spoken about, go to some of the restaurants, look at some of the books, try some of the foods. Like, the food is amazing. Once you allow yourself to experiment, try foods you're not usually eating. Like my variety of food now is incredible compared to before. When I was like bodybuilding especially, and as an athlete, as a meat-based one, it basically was beef of some form, chicken of some form, fish of some form, and chucking some carb of some form, and that was it. And I didn't enjoy eating. I just ate because it's like something like tuna pasta. It isn't nice. It was just plain dry, and I just ate it because it was good. I hated chicken after a number of years because I was eating so much of it. But again, I was just bought into, I need to have this.
Dave, there was a point where I was literally getting up in the morning and eating slices of chicken and salad and a bag of salad from the supermarket on my way to work. And it's plain chicken. It was the most revolting, boring thing. And I think back to it, and I was like, why would I possibly have ever done that to myself?
It's true. It's true. And another thing, actually, which, as I said earlier, when you become aware of stuff, you start to think about it. And the kind of reality is so obvious. We never thought about it to this moment. If you take a steak even, right? everyone says, you know, I love steak, couldn't give up steak and so on. I love steak. Every time I went out for a meal, it was steak I would go for. Have you ever eaten a steak without gravy or sauce or something on top of it? You know, most people never have. It's so dry. It would take you forever to eat it. So it's, again, you're enjoying the sauce with the gravy and whatever else it is. You're not eating the steak on its own. It's like, even we'll take, you know, silly example, but it's a comparison. It's like vodka and Coke. People don't drink vodka straight because it does taste pretty disgusting, but they love vodka supposedly, but that's because it's got loads of Coke in it. So they're tasting the Coke, but they're getting the vodka in. It's a similar kind of idea I see with, again, steak, sauce, and so on. So think about, again, these foods. Most of them are very, very bland.
Well, and that's where it was really interesting that the GQ Awards, the Best Burger Awards, so they do this annual kind of about the best burger. And this year, the best burger was out of New York, and it was a vegan burger. And people couldn't understand it, but you know, this is a credible thing that happens every single year, and for them to win that award was absolutely amazing. Then there's companies like Hampton Creek. Google just bought a significant stake in them because they're developing food tech, and they've made a vegan egg. They've also been able to replicate the texture and the taste of meat, like to the point where people who weren't vegan were eating these products and not being able to tell it wasn't meat. So, you know, one of the other things that's happening now is there are a lot of conscious and ethical entrepreneurs. There's a lot of food tech. And I said, Google are investing heavily in this because, you know, let's be honest, Google are creating the future. And they've recognized that this is a major area for development for us as humanity because it's not sustainable. You know, meat production in the ways that we're currently doing is not sustainable. The biggest cause of deforestation and planetary destruction today is animal agriculture. If you've not seen the film Cowspiracy, I encourage everybody to watch that. And we cannot continue destroying our planet like this. And this is why, as I said, it's amazing that there are gifted, talented people that are creating alternatives for us so we can continue still enjoying the things we like in our life without, you know, the devastation and destruction that goes with it. And it was so amazing that, you know, there were so many meat eaters that voted for that burger, even though it was plant-based.
Yeah, totally. No, I remember seeing that, like, it's great. It's another, again, vote of confidence, which is what's crucial. And the more of these things that can happen, more people, again, are giving these things a go. It's like over here in Lanzarote, where I am, you know, I was quite surprised because the whole Spanish mainland even and the islands, they're way behind in terms of, compared to the UK, in terms of whole adopting plant-based lifestyle in restaurants or shops or cafes or whatever. But even in the last, 6 weeks, 2 vegan restaurants have opened up here in the main city, and it's only an island, and a shop as well. So, you know, things are starting to happen, and there's so many cities around the world now that you can go to them and you can find many, many options. So things are happening. It's just, and there's reasons it's happening, and it's getting a case of becoming more educated into why and why you need to do the same. That's what's important. Like London, you look at London. How many choices were there in London? Like, you're spoiled for choice.
Absolutely. It's amazing how many places, and also how many high street major chains are now starting to veganize their menu and make it much more vegan friendly. It's actually very rare for me to go to a place and not find, you know, at least a few vegan options. And some of them actually have special vegan menus. A lot of high street chains will have special vegan menus, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's changing. The shift is happening, and it's a case of, as I keep saying, you know, educate yourself, look at the information, take on board what we've said to you, but do your own kind of due diligence on it, because it is a lifestyle change and it's a big one. You know, so don't, you know, we don't take it lightly. We don't expect you to take it lightly either. So, you know, check out more and take on board what we've said.
So with that in mind, I've got a special gift for all the people that have invested their valuable time being here with us this evening. On Saturday, I appreciate it's sort of short notice. On Saturday, I'll be running an event in London. It's called the 10-Step Stress Solution Bootcamp. It's the 10 key things that we need to consider shifting in our lifestyle to increase our resilience to dealing with stress and to improve our well-being. Obviously, part of that will be diet, but also it will be looking at a variety of different things from exercise to mind space to all kinds of things. Normally, the tickets for that event are £247. However, just for the people who are interested in taking the next step to improving their well-being and to making a positive shift in their life, whether that's dietary or otherwise. I'm willing to do that for 10% of the value. That's only for people that have attended today. All you need to do, and I know that you'll be putting up my details in a second. If you just pop an email across to the office, which is info@stress.org.uk, or call the number, which is 0203142865. If you just quote "Go Vegan Grow," you'll get it for 10% of the price. That's basically 24 quid. That's £24, less than what you'd spend for, a meal out. You can spend a day going through some really powerful strategies and techniques. I will be there in person delivering that. My team will be on hand. There'll be about 60 or 70 other people there as well. We'd love for you to join us. It's a one-time offer. You've obviously spent the time here with us this evening. I'd like to repay your investment of time with that little gift. If you're around, if you can get to London, and we'd love to have you there. Get in touch with the office tomorrow. They'll answer any questions. They'll be able to help you to make any arrangements, and hopefully we'll see you on Saturday.
Brilliant. Very generous of you, Neil. Is it showing up on the screen now, okay?
It is.
Various details?
So
great.
Yeah, you've got all our details there. You know how to get a hold of us. Get in touch. Even if you just want to have a chat, if there's anything else that you need, or if you want to talk about my experience, give us a shout. You've got my details there. And look forward to supporting your journey.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Again, thanks so much for that, because it's very generous, and I know your workshops are pretty phenomenal, so it'd be a great thing for people to get to attend. So grab Neil's offer definitely, or if you can, because again, with people out from different countries, if you know of anyone's in London or somewhere nearby, make sure you tell them about this event that's on, and get them to come to it, because you can see that Neil's passionate about this area, but then obviously about stress, which is other area. So matching the two together is another powerful way of helping you. Neil, I want to thank you so much again for being on. I know we've had a hectic day, stressful day in some ways, but you got here, and that was what mattered most. So thank you for being on, and look forward to getting you on again sometime in the near future. And keep up the good work.
Yeah, you too, mate. Take care. It's always nice hanging out with you.
Cool. And guys, thanks for being on. Again, congratulations for taking the time to invest your time in being on this. Please help spread the word with Go Vegan Grow interview. Every week we're going to have an expert, a person who's had a personal journey to plant-based lifestyle. Sometimes it'll be athletes, sometimes it'll be an expert, sometimes it'll just be an individual who has felt incredible impacts, and someone I felt is worth having on, who has a lot to share. So, and also we welcome your suggestions too. Who would you like to see us interview on the show? So make sure you share details, make sure you share recordings, registration details, place your comments, place your questions, help us to grow this community. Get on Facebook, Go Vegan Grow, Twitter, all the usual social medias. And I said, help us to grow our community, because whatever your reason, Go Vegan Grow. Save yourself, save animals, save the planet. Talk to you again soon, guys. Take care.